Well, good evening, America. It is 7 p.m. Wednesday, September 9th, and this is Queer News Tonight, the world's first live LGBTQ daily evening news. It is time to queer up the news.
Watch as we bring you these and other stories from the LGBTQ headlines. Pete Buttigieg joins Joe Biden's transition team for the White House, and the Oscars have new diversity requirements for Best Picture.
Tonight on It's Happening Out, Wednesday at 8 p.m., we are going to discuss Ron Bernensky's death and if President Trump's admission today contributed to his death. Tomorrow night on Gay Town Hall, airing Thursday at 8 p.m., the most diverse cast of LGBTQ community members you will find anywhere is going to break down Michelle Obama's advice to the LGBTQ community that you can't find long-term relationships on dating apps. Is she right? We begin with breaking Q news tonight by reporting Donald Trump today knew how infectious and deadly COVID-19 was in February. Watch this.
So what was President Xi saying yesterday?
Well, we were talking mostly about the virus, and I think he's going to have it in good shape, but it's a very tricky situation.
Indeed,
it goes through air, Bob. That's always tougher than the touch. The touch, you don't have to touch things, right? But the air, you just breathe the air, and that's how it's passed. And so that's a very tricky one. That's a very delicate one. It's also more deadly than your strenuous flus. People don't realize we lose 25,000, 30,000 people a year here. Who would ever think that, right?
I know. It's
pretty amazing. And then I say, well, is that the same thing? This is more deadly. This is 5 per. This is 5% versus 1% and less than 1%. So this is deadly stuff.
Well, after this report, then Joe Biden, the vice president and candidate for president of the United States, did a press conference that was quite scathing. We have that for you. Watch this.
We just learned from the Washington Post columnist Bob Woodward that the president of the United States has admitted on tape in February he knew about COVID-19, that it passed through the air. He knew how deadly it was. It was much more deadly than the flu. He knew and purposely played it down. Worse, he lied to the American people. He knowingly and willingly lied about the threat it posed to the country for months. He had the information. He knew how dangerous it was. Now, while this deadly disease ripped through our nation, he failed to do his job on purpose. It was a life and death betrayal of the American people. Experts say that if he had acted just 1 week sooner, 36,000 people would have been saved. If he acted 2 weeks sooner, back in March, 54,000 lives would have been spared in March and April alone. His failure has not only cost lives, it sent our economy in a tailspin. It cost millions more in American livelihoods. This is a recession created by Donald Trump's negligence, and he is unfit for this job as a consequence of it.
Well, there you have it. In breaking queer news, tapes have been released from early February 7th, where you can hear President Trump telling journalist Bob Woodward just how dangerous COVID-19 is. Even weeks and months after this, Trump labeled the seriousness of the hoax, or as a hoax, and refused to wear a mask despite acknowledging that this was far more deadly than the flu. Joe Biden, reacting to hearing this, levied a tirade against this president, saying that tens of thousands of Americans would be with their families tonight for dinner if not for Trump's lying and betrayal of the American people. We will have much more on this story as it develops, for sure, as it is a shocking turn of events for our LGBTQ community and America as a whole.
This is it's criminal negligence, plain and simple. I have several friends. My friend Ron Rich, who was a volunteer at the Winter Party, who passed away from this. Family members who've gotten sick with it. I've gotten it. And because the president didn't want to cause a panic by letting people know that there was this deadly virus that he could have done stuff to stop, but chose not to.
Well, I am tonight wearing a Walking Dead t-shirt, and that is because literally we are walking dead. Here are the facts as I know them. First, I'm a Republican. I have done my best over the last 7 months to be relatively impartial in reporting the news and being supportive of supporting both sides. Today is the most shocking day of 2020 by far, and here is why. On February 7th, the President of the United States admits to perhaps the most distinguished journalist in America that there is a 5% death rate as he knew it on February 7th from COVID-19. 5 times more deadly than the flu. He knew that on February 7th. On February 7th, he admits that it is airborne and it will have a very difficult attempt to control because it is not touch. Those are his words, not mine. But yet goes on for the next 2 months not advocating for mask use to fight an airborne disease. On March 19th, he admits to Woodward that he has been playing it down so as to not panic the American public. The day before he said that, Ron Berninski, our host at It's Happening Out, had his final evening on our show as he began to cough. And 3 days later went into the hospital, onto a respirator, and for nearly 45 days never came out, to losing his life. On March 18th, one day before President Trump said that he was playing it down, Ron Berninski said, "We do not have to wear a mask," and references the President of the United States. Donald Trump was directly and indirectly involved of the death of a host at It's Happening Out. You can be damn sure we're going to follow this story closely now, starting today. Well, good evening, America. It is 7 p.m. Wednesday, September 9th, 2020, and it is time to queer up the news. We are literally out of the closet and into the headlines. So many of your stories we are going to tell this evening on Queer News Tonight.
Tonight on the world's first live daily queer evening news show.
Tonight's news about the gay community and the news from an LGBTQ perspective. Are our gay stories important to you? In headlines, politics, entertainment, gay culture, travel, religion, and more. Reported by respected anchors.
Out of the closet and into the headlines on Q News Tonight.
Well, thank you for joining Queer News Tonight. We are live. This is an unedited news show, so anything can happen as we unveil the news. This evening, we bring you the news of and a perspective from the LGBTQ community. I'm your anchor, Al Ferguson, and this is my co-anchor, David Hopkins. So let's queer up the news. Tonight we begin with queer headlines. The LGBTQ community in America is certainly diverse, and the LGBTQ community around the world is vast. So we're going to bring you the bullet points of queer news for today, Wednesday, September 9th, 2020. We begin by queering up entertainment. Jeffrey Bowyer-Chapman's gay horror movie, Spiral, just dropped its first trailer. Watch this.
It's my first night there. I see this guy, and I was terrified. You're dead. Saying that. Believe me, choosing to live your life loud and proud is about the bravest thing you can do in this world.
My robot's pretty good.
He's
I'm Tiffany, your new neighbor.
I'm Aaron. This is my partner. Hi.
Wow. I'm just so happy we have some fresh faces in the neighborhood.
Love is all that matters.
I'm not sure most people would actually agree with that.
I find it disgusting how false stereotypes shape public opinion.
Aaron, last night, I think I saw something. There's something not right about this place.
What are you talking about?
There was a couple that were killed 10 years ago. They knew, and they didn't say anything.
You need to stop thinking that everyone's trying to get you all the time. Marshall and Tiffany are good people.
Well, to new neighbors.
New neighbors.
We've been chosen.
Chosen for what?
Some kind of ritual. Every 10 years they make a selection.
Do you see that?
We're the selection.
It looks exciting. The trailer for Jeffrey Bowyer-Chapman's upcoming horror movie Spiral has everything. Jump scares, creepy cults, homophobic graffiti, gaslighting of partners, and even sacrificial rituals. It sounds just like, well, Manor's in the gayest place on planet Earth. The unreal actor and Canada's Drag Race judge stars in the film as Malik. He and his partner Aaron moved to a small town with their 16-year-old daughter in search of a better life. But from the looks of the trailer, they're getting much more than they bargained for. We have high hopes it will bring to light some fantastic LGBTQ themes.
I'm very excited about this movie. Jeffrey Bowyer-Chapman is gorgeous, and I would eat any manner of things out of his ass. But that being said, I'm also happy because I have Shudder subscription on my Amazon Prime, so I will probably end up watching that at some point this week.
Hats off to Ryan Murphy. My goodness, in the last decade, he has reinvented LGBT themed media in the world. Congratulations.
Next week, we're at Vote 2020. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. Rachel Maddow, Michael Cohen, and Donald Trump. Watch this.
I did what I did. I took responsibility for it. But Mr. Trump, Alan Weisselberg, Don, so, just to correct you for a second there, Rachel, it wasn't just Don Jr.'s signature that was on some of the checks. The president's signature was on two of the checks at the very beginning, which I provided to Congress as part of the open house testimony. Why I'm the only one, it doesn't make sense. As I stated, I was acting at the direction of and for the benefit of Mr. Trump. And how I became this guy, I'm not the one who had the affair. He did.
In a stunning interview with Rachel Maddow, Michael Cohen predicted that Trump would resign if he loses the election so that Pence can pardon him for any and all crimes that he may be charged with at a later date. This interview, along with the breaking news today that Trump knew about the COVID-19 deadliness in early February but chose not to disclose it to the American people, is sending multiple shockwaves at the Trump campaign when it can least afford it. There is no doubt that Cohen has done many illegal things for Trump that helped him rise to power, but perhaps he's looking to be remembered slightly better by history with exposing Trump mere weeks before the November election.
Well, I watched the entire interview. The one I know Rachel Maddow is probably disappointed today because this would have been the #1 headline in the world all this week with Michael Cohen's new book. But it has been washed off of the headlines or washed out of the headlines because of Woodward's announcement today. But the interview is fascinating, and he has many unique and interesting challenges of his participation of what the president asked him to do. We continue by queering up entertainment. Oscar's Best Picture will require LGBTQ inclusion, according to the Academy. The Diversity and Inclusion Initiative has been a heavy focus for the Oscars for the past few years, shown by the expansive membership initiative. As part of the Academy Aperture 2025 initiative, the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences announced Tuesday new representation and inclusion standards in order to be eligible in the Best Picture category. Beginning in 2024 for the 96th Oscars, a film submitting for Best Picture will need to meet the inclusion thresholds by meeting at least 2 of the 4 standards. These standards include either the lead actors, supporting cast, story, or those behind the scenes come from a minority background, such as being a racial or ethnic group, being LGBTQ, a woman, or someone who has a cognitive or physical disability.
Next we queer up entertainment. Miley Cyrus mocks Joe Rogan for his bad take on drag queens. Appearing on the Joe Rogan Experience last week, the pansexual singer beamed with praise over RuPaul's Drag Race, saying she, a woman of taste, loves it. When Rogan said the queens all do the same thing, Cyrus clapped back with, "That's what I think when I watch your show, all the same stuff." To his credit, Rogan laughed at the jab and appeared to take it in good humor, despite committing heresy by dissing Drag Race queens.
Next, we queer up gay culture and reporting Dictionary.com adds new LGBTQ words, opts for gay over homosexual. As part of its biggest update ever, Dictionary.com is literally redefining same-sex relationships. The website has opted to replace homosexual with gay due to the negative connotations of the former. In this big update, the reference site has also added many new words that further reflect society's growing acceptance of the LGBTQ community.
Next, we queer up the world. High schools must teach LGBTQ inclusive sex education in England. Starting this month, all English teenagers will learn about lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer sexual health and positive relationships. A Department of Education spokesperson said in an email that, quote, "We want to support all young people to be happy, healthy, and safe. This comes as welcome news when you consider in other parts of the world, such as Poland, much is being done to curb LGBTQ influence and growth."
Next, we queer up religion. A hateful preacher insists there is no such thing as a gay Christian while thanking God for canceling Pride. Responding last month to news that this year's Cornwall Pride celebration in England had been canceled, Pastor Joshua Williamson of New Quay Baptist Church wrote on Facebook, "Wonderful news." He later shared a pamphlet with members of the Cornwall Pride group which suggests that homosexuality is a choice and that Jesus says that our outward sin comes from our inward evil desires. I still don't know why all of these totally straight guys obsess over what us gay guys do in our bedroom, but all right.
Next, we queer up Vote 2020. Pete Buttigieg joins Joe Biden's transition team for the White House. Former Vice President Joe Biden just expanded his transition team, adding top Democrats to leadership and advisory roles. Biden named a 15-person advisory board, which will include former Mayor Pete Buttigieg. The advisory board will help Biden with government appointments if he wins the general election against Donald Trump in November.
Next week, we're up the USA and reporting the Trump administration says it's okay for a Catholic school to fire a teacher just for being gay. The Trump administration on Tuesday filed a legal brief with the Indiana Supreme Court, formally making the case a Catholic school has a First Amendment right to fire a teacher for entering into a same-sex marriage. It will be one of the first tests of the Supreme Court's ruling on Our Lady of Guadalupe School versus Morrissey Baru. Although the ruling stopped short of defining the ministerial exemption under the First Amendment, it did assert a variety of factors can determine whether it applies to a Catholic school employee.
Next, we queer up the USA. Well, queer up the world, rather. Madame Madness to be RuPaul's first bearded queen. Drag Race Holland makes history by featuring the show's first bearded queen. When Madame Madness walks through the workroom on September 18th, all eyes will be on them. Madness was inspired to keep the beard in drag after realizing that traditional drag would require them to shave before every makeup application. They are pushing the boundaries of what it means to be feminine or masculine, and they're causing a stir in the drag race world.
Next, we continue by queering up the world and reporting Argentina sets aside 1% of jobs for transgender people. Argentina is at it again. Their president seems set on paving the way for global transgender rights. This week, Argentina's leadership announced that 1% of all public sector jobs will be reserved for transgender applicants. The decree stated that everyone, including the trans community, has a right to decent and productive work in a safe and equitable working environment. Argentina joins Uruguay, which enacted a similar law in 2018 in the push for trans equality.
We continue to queer up the world. Pakistan bans Grindr and Tinder due to immoral content. Pakistan has banned dating apps as part of a crackdown on immoral content. The majority Muslim nations specifically target apps such as Tinder and Grindr, which promote hookup culture. Other social media apps were not exempt from the ban. Pakistan has issued final warnings to both YouTube and TikTok, demanding that they control obscenity, vulgarity, and immorality on their platforms. But hey, at least the straights are finally getting it as hard as the gays do, and that's equality.
Apparently David's not going to Pakistan anytime soon. Next, let's catch up on all the news surrounding COVID-19 with our segment called Quarantine Quickies. The first story tonight is our daily reporting on coronavirus facts, especially important to the LGBTQ community. First, we report on coronavirus case numbers. Based on standard acceptance of our population, the world's LGBTQ COVID-19 cases now stand at a staggering 1,952,168, while America's LGBTQ COVID-19 cases stand at 456,885. We remind you that America is still ground zero of the world's pandemic. The USA is just 4.4% of the world's population, and today America accounts for 23.4% of all of the world's cases. Next, we report on coronavirus deaths. The world's LGBT COVID-19 deaths stand at 63,325, while America's LGBTQ COVID-19 deaths stand at 13,613. The USA is 21.4% of all of the world's deaths.
Quarantine Quickies. New report shows how dirty your mask is and what LGBTQ America should do about it. Watch this.
Just how dirty can they get? To find out, we're enlisting the help of our Today family. I brought brown paper bags for everyone. I'm going to hand them to y'all, and then I need you to just put your mask. I get to work with special sterile swabs. They won't detect if coronavirus is present on a mask, but they will pick up any bacteria. First, I get the inside of each mask, the part that touches your nose and mouth. I change gloves in between each mask. And I use a different swab on the outside. Outside of Dylan's mask here, this is Chanel's. Outside of her pretty pristine, brand new looking mask. Remember, the outside of the mask is the part we likely touch the most with our hands. Stylish mask, Craig. That looks like a coffee stain. I label each swab, and then they're off to the lab.
Here you go, Dr. Whittier.
We enlist the help of Columbia University microbiologist Dr. Susan Whittier. She transfers whatever's on the swabs to a petri dish. After 72 hours, the results are in.
These are the swabs that we cultured.
Whose masks had nothing on them?
DD was negative.
But what about the rest of us? Savannah, Hoda, Chanel, and I all have skin bacteria growing on the inside of our masks.
That does make sense because a large majority of the mask is on your chin or, above your nose.
And outside the masks, Craig had a little skin bacteria. But Savannah and Hoda?
There was a lot of growth. It was quite surprising. It was like, oh my gosh.
And you're a scientist.
Yes, exactly.
Take a look. The swabs from Savannah and Hoda's masks picked up the most bacteria. Each had a different strain of Pseudomonas, a bacteria found in tap water.
It's not harmful. I would see that as kind of an indication of somebody touching the outside of their mask with damp or wet hands.
Good to know. Your dirty mask probably won't get you sick, but it can cause skin irritation and even outbreaks. But you can prevent maskne by washing your mask often. Dermatologists suggest if you have sensitive skin, try using the same cleanser to wash your mask that you use on your face. Tips to keep you and your skin healthy.
A new report suggests that while bacteria can grow on masks if not washed and replaced enough, that this bacteria is not likely to get you sick, as is normal everyday bacteria that one might expect to find from touching the mask or rubbing against your face. However, irritation from the mask can be caused by wearing them so much, and it is suggested if you want to avoid this to use cotton or disposable masks. It's also suggested that people should wash their mask much more frequently to ensure that it does not cause any issues as well. Al, do you wash your mask?
I do. And of course, I think one of the really important things in this report is that we have learned now in 8 months that the transmission of COVID is very likely not through alternative spreads. It's not through touch. It is not through your mask. It is not in alternatives. It is a respiratory droplet spread. So if you're wearing your mask, regardless, you have a 95 percentile protection combined with social isolation and the use of antiseptic hand wash. You're highly effective in protection against COVID spread.
Yeah, I actually have several masks, and I do laundry them frequently. You guys have just seen this one because, nothing says like reporting the news like saying you're into kinky leather sex.
Next, we report on quarantine quickies by reporting a SWAT team raids a Baltimore gay bar after COVID-19 complaints. The owner of the Baltimore Eagle, an LGBTQ leather Levi bar that has been in business for 30 years, has raised strong objections to what he says was an August 7th raid on his establishment by a dozen representatives of city regulatory agencies who claimed they were investigating a complaint that the Eagle was violating COVID-19 social distancing rules. Parrish says he believes the people who filed what he says were false complaints against the Eagle were drag performers associated with a competing LGBTQ venue, but he declined to identify the competing venue. We'd like to report that Happening Out Television Network is broadcasting on our brand new set in partnership with the Sunshine Cathedral, the world's largest queer church in Fort Lauderdale, Wilton Manors, Florida. We always joke we're broadcasting from the gayest place on planet Earth. Our support of their Sunday celebration is the largest LGBTQ religious broadcast in the world. It is live every Sunday at 10:30 Eastern Time. We encourage you to tune in. Sunshine Cathedral is my queer church. Watch this.
I'm Phil McChesney, chair of the Sunshine Cathedral Foundation, and the Sunshine Cathedral is my queer church.
We'd also like to thank our set designer, Concepto Modern Living here in Fort Lauderdale, for making this set in this amazing queer church campus possible. We end tonight's broadcast with The Big Finish. These are short story mentions of LGBTQ news of the day or news with a gay perspective. So here we go. First on Queer News tonight's The Big Finish. Michael Cohen explains Trump's Obama fixation. He's all of the things that Donald Trump wants to be.
I mean, handsome, classy, in good shape, happily married. Yeah, I can see it.
Big dick. It all makes sense now. Of course, Trump's obsession is because everyone knows Obama has a much larger, I think I already said it, but I'll say now, pair of hands than Donnie has. The Big Finish. Church leader who claims coronavirus is God's punishment for same-sex marriage. Oh, guess what? He tests positive for COVID-19. And he's 91 years old.
You know, this story kind of makes me really sad until I see that picture where he looks like a mix between scary Santa and the Pope. And then I don't know what to think.
I've said it many times, but I'll say it again. God sure does like to punish religious leaders a lot with this COVID-19 thing. And I guess that's fair since they all seem to love to talk about COVID-19 and all of the ways you can't catch it until they catch it. The big finish. Road to Mirage, as in the Las Vegas hotel, is renamed Ziegfeld and Roy Drive.
You know, it's always good to see gay people getting streets named after them, even if one was eaten by a tiger and not sicked on them by Carol Baskin.
You know, there were plastic surgeons all over America that were very, very sad when he died. They are a fantastic act in Vegas for decades, and this is a wonderful way to honor the duo that made us all wonder about the joys of magic. The big finish. Keeping Up with the Kardashians. I hate the show. It's ending after 20 seasons on E!
You know, I have to give huge credit to that family. Their dad got OJ off, and then Kim had sex with Ray J's brother, and they built an entire empire off of her taking dick up her ass. I know many of gay men who are not worth anywhere near as much money and take more dick up their ass.
I am so shocked that you know so much about the Kardashians. I know nothing about them except I think they were classified in the bag full of deplorables by Hillary Clinton.
Ray J was super hot in that porno, if you haven't seen it.
So all I can say about Keeping Up with, oh no, wait, stop, don't go. That's all I got.
Yeah.
The big finish. Whatever it takes, President Trump says he may spend his own money for re-election. Because remember, we announced last night, he's running out of money.
Yeah, I don't think campaign advisors take dollar menu donations. I could be wrong.
I suppose it's a good mentality if you want to win. It's a good verbal commitment if you want to win. But how is it real net worth of $500 going to help much in a presidential campaign? Oh, after today, Donald, you're in so much trouble. The big finish. Notre Dame reopens today after its fire in 2019.
I'm not big on religion, even though I'm in a church right now. That being said, it's a beautiful and iconic landmark, and I'm glad to see it's back with us.
See that bell tower? I climbed all the way to the top just months before this fire.
And yelled, "Sanctuary!"
Wait, are you calling me a humpback, dude? Notre Dame has long been a breathtaking beauty, and I was lucky enough to have been there myself. And as I said, up in the bell tower before it burned down. As a lover of travel, 147 countries, I hope one day to return and see the new Notre Dame when it completely opens, and I want to see it again in person.
And that's today's news for the LGBTQ community on the world's first daily LGBTQ evening news show.
And remember, if it's important to the LGBTQ community, it's important to Queer News Tonight. But you must help us. Click subscribe on YouTube and share this news.
We are out of the closet and into the headlines. This is the only source of live LGBTQ news in the world. Your community needs your support.
And you know the proof of that is David has only used the word fuck once tonight in this show. Remember, you are not alone. We will get through this crisis.
We're here with you, and this is Queer News Tonight.
Thank you for joining us. I'm Al Ferguson, and on behalf of myself and co-host David Hopkins, we will see you daily and tomorrow night at 7 p.m. Good night, America.
Good night.